Hello there and welcome to my YouTube channel, Julie McNeil Crafts. So exciting today because I am going to be making something as part of the Samantha K design team that is going to be featured on Hochanda. So it's music themed, there's lots of music themed goodies. Now we have this violin and it's obviously meant to be sort of built up very 3D. Just having a little look like that. Which is awesome. However, me being tight, I'm going to pull it apart because I'm thinking that, you know, I could make something with these bits separately and make a completely separate violin. So I'm thinking that I could, you know, manage to work something out that would look like an instrument in its own right. So I'm going to put that part aside. And I am just going to use the base part because I do quite like the fact it's going to come off and have the bit underneath. So I'm going to use just that part and the bow for my make. Now I am just going to show you some gorgeous papers I have. I have these beautiful vintage music papers with notes on them that somebody, either as they were learning or something, has gradually put on. So these were something I acquired from a charity shop. I think I had, just trying to see if there's a date on this at all. I can't see a date just now. But yeah, it's very old. Whatever it is, it's very old anyway. So I managed to acquire these from a local charity shop. A while back they had this thing that you could have, what was it? They were just trying to have a clear out, so it was as many books as you could fit in your bag for £5. And I knew they were doing it, so I came with a big massive Tesco bag and I got loads of stuff, which was lovely. So I just thought, what better opportunity to use this beautiful paper. So I'm thinking in my head I want to have like a soft floral, pretty, really vintage look sort of wooden plaque with the violin. So I'm going to stick this down with some gel medium, and then I am going to put some gesso over it, some clear gesso, and then I think I'm going to go in with some soft pinks and then possibly even some crackle paste. So what I will do is I will just pop you on speed up while I'm putting the papers down and the clear gesso on. Okay, so as you'll have seen in the speed up there, do you know, this is ancient old and it's not even opened. As you'd have seen in the speed up there, I also prepped some other elements from the collection with gesso. I don't know if I'm going to use them on this project or not, but at least they're sort of prepped for if I do want them. So I have this idea that I want this to be sort of like a really nice pale pink. I'm also trying to use up some of my old stash, so I'm going to try these colours together. If not, I might grab some of my Pebeo paints, but these are forever old. I mean, these are from before there was dedicated craft channels. I think I bought them off QVC, but that's too salmony. I definitely don't want it that colour. So I'm thinking if I add a tiny bit of this bright pink as well, and I'm going to water it down quite thin. I really want this to be more of a wash rather than a thick coverage, because I do want to see my what do you call it, music. Okay, so that's a slightly better pink. I've got more of a rose pink going on there. Maybe just a tiny bit more. Yeah, that's better. Nice dusky pink. Our Dawn would like that. She likes a dusky pink. Right, so I want that quite watery. So let's see how we go with this. I'm just gonna, I kind of want more white in the centre, I think, with touches of pink. And as I said, I really have sort of watered this down quite a bit. Yeah, I think that's given quite a nice subtle effect. So I'm wanting it to be a nice subtle effect, because I really do want to not lose that gorgeous vintage paper in the background either. So I'm just going to paint this all over. I'm happy with the pink that has become. So this does have the clear gesso on it, because obviously this is a vintage music book. It's not going to like paints and watercolours applied to it. It's not been designed for that purpose, so it would sort of reject it. The colour would all sort of like absorb really quickly into it because of the type of paper that it is. So I'm just going to add some more of this pink. I am liking how delicate this is looking, and then I'm just sort of going in and really watering that down. As I said, I'm wanting more of a wash effect. Okay, so I'm going to add a bit more white to this. Very different to my normal style. I'm normally quite bold with my colours, but I just sort of thought it suited the sort of soft, delicate look. Now I will probably colour at a later stage the edges. I'm just trying to flatten the paper as much as possible, because there is wrinkles and stuff in it, but that's okay, because it suits that sort of vintage look. Right, so I'm just going to let that dry a moment. So while that's drying, I don't want to waste any of this, so I'm just going to, I do this with everything, I'm just going to pick up this paint and dry brush it into, this is my Jane Davenport journal, and then I've got a mop-up page. It's amazing how when you're doing journal pages and stuff, it's so much easier to do it once there's something down. Sort of the blank page can be a bit scary, but once you've got a paint on, you have a bit of a starting point. So yeah, that's me just used that up on that journal there, and we will come back to that at a later day. Okay, so that's dry now, and I've got my Craftbox UK Crackle paint. And it's a transparent paint that crackles as it dries, creates an eggshell cracking pattern in just one step. Apply crackle paint to any porous or semi-porous surface and apply a thick layer with a brush or palette knife and let it dry. So that I bought this when I went to the Craftbox UK retreat, and as you can see I have not used it yet. So may as well just, don't want to waste that bit. Get it on there. Right, so I'm just going to grab a brush. This one has been in water, but it's also, I've been using it to apply my gel mediums and things, so rather than accidentally damage more than one brush, I'll just give that a wee dry. So I'm just going to apply this all over this project. So I'm going to do some areas quite thick, possibly around the edges so that I get nice big cracks, and other areas a bit thinner. So like these middle bits, most of it's most likely going to be covered by the violin anyway, so I can go a bit thinner. So I'll just do that, and then I will let this dry naturally so that we get some nice crackly effects. I'm just putting a thin bit in the middle because most of that's going to be covered anyway, and it's quite nice to have different thicknesses because that means we're going to get different crackle effects. So yeah, I'm just applying a fairly generous amount. Now I want to see how this background turns out before I decide what I am doing with my violin, because I want to see how this looks first, and then I'll have an idea of what I've got. A few ideas of what I'd like to do to the violin, but I want to see how it looks against this background. So I'm just going to leave that to dry, and I'll probably either be back to this later today or tomorrow. Okay, so that's dried and we've got a good crackle on that. I'm going to try and emphasise the crackle a little bit more. So I'm just going to try and rub some gesso. I'm just going to get it on my finger and rub some gesso over that just to emphasise the crackle. I might actually get some of the paints out as well, and then we can see how I'll just put some paint into my palette just to make it a little bit easier. As I said, hopefully we will be able to emphasise the crackle elements. Ow! Just a little bit, just be careful though, because some of the crackles are a little bit sharp. So I'm just going to sort of white this out a little bit more. I think I kind of want a sort of heavier white element at the edges, just to sort of frame it a little bit. So quite often I frame with black, but this time I'm going to sort of frame with a white hue. So I'm just going to pop you on fast forward while I do this, because if I do it too fast I'm going to lose the crackle, but I'm also aware that you don't want to watch hours of me doing this. Okay, that's dried off, but I'm going to try putting a tiny bit of gilding wax on this just to see how it looks, but to be honest I'm thinking that I don't have as much texture as I was hoping for, so I may actually go in with some modelling paste as well. So I'm just going to see if rubbing some gilding wax in some of the areas will bring out some of that crackle. As I said, it's not sort of turned out as defined as I wanted to. It's quite a subtle crackle. Mind you, it does say on the tab of it that it's like an eggshell crackle, and that is definitely of effect it has got, just a sort of a nice soft eggshell-y look. But I'm thinking I just maybe want a bit more texture and definition. So I'm going to bring out little bits of it, and yeah, I think I'm going to come in with some modelling paste. Okay, give that a wee buff. I was just spreading out the paint with a tissue, so on the speed up bit, so just give that a wee buff, and then I'm thinking that actually let's get some inks on here as well, that'll maybe emphasise the cracks a little bit more. I'm also just going to, while I think about it, grab a little bit of sandpaper and just take this bit at the top off, because it's just, we've got a little bit of excess paper. So if I just go down there, and then we'll just neaten that up with a bit of paper. Right, I'm just going to grab a stencil and some modelling paste. Okay, so I have some Pebeo modelling paste. It was a sort of a kit of various Pebeo mediums, so you could try them out. I think I bought it on Hochanda a while back, but it was sort of a good way of trying out some of the products in smaller smaller sections of it, and then you could see what sort of things you like, and that you'd maybe buy bigger amounts of. So I don't like my stencils overly even, so I'm not putting it on straight. I'm just, as I said, trying to create just a little bit of texture in various places. And then we'll leave this to dry, and we will work on creating the violin, because that's going to be the main feature anyway. This is sort of just a bit of background for it to sit on. Right, I'm going to add a bit more here, and then because I like to do things in the rule of threes, it just looks more aesthetically pleasing. It's because the brain chooses this or that. So apparently if you look at sales, it's quite often in even numbers because the brain's either looking at that or that, but you very rarely get sales done in threes, because the brain can't choose between this, that or that. So that works well when it comes into design elements, because we want everything. We want it to be a one piece. So I'm actually just going to bring that over a little bit as well, so it's slightly more uneven looking. Right, so that's that now. I'm just going to leave that to dry and we can have a look at the violin. Okay, so I've decided I am going to build the violin up with all the different layers. I'm also thinking that it'd be quite nice to have the music sheet peeping through the cutout parts of the violin. So I am just going to add this music sheet to this element here. Just going to make sure that that the ripping and tearing I haven't lost any of the music part. I just need to pull that down a bit further, I think. Okay, and we'll just stick that on there so that we have the music sheet just popping through the cutouts there. Okay, and for the rest of the violin, at this moment in time, all I'm going to do is just to cover it in white paint. So I have got my Dylusions white acrylic paint, and I'm just going to give it a good coat of that, and I think I'll just pop you on fast forward while I do this bit too. So this is semi-dry. I'm being impatient, and I'm just going to go around the edges with my Distress Oxides because they have a chalkier finish. So that's going to kind of go with the look that I'm trying to create, a sort of distressed, shabby chic, vintagey sort of look. So I'm going on first with my picked raspberry. It's a bit wetter down there, that's okay, and then I'm going to go in with Vintage Photo to knock that back a little bit, and then I am going to sand it back slightly. So the other bits aren't dry, but I'm going to be doing this sort of same technique with all of them. So that's the picked raspberry, and now I'm going to grab my vintage, oops, that's a bit heavier than I had expected, so I'm just going to, oops, wipe some of that back. Right, let's get the pink back on there. Okay, so obviously I want to go slightly easier with the Vintage Photo. I am planning on putting a bit of rice paper on the violin as well, so I'll most likely maybe choose that area that I've ended up being a bit heavy-handed with. There we go. So that's a softer look. That's sort of more the colours that I was aiming for at the bottom of that there. So I'm just kind of spreading that round, and then once I've got it on, I'll pull it in. So that's given me a much more subtle look than what went on at the beginning there. So I'm just going to get my tissue paper again. Let's see if we can just knock this back slightly. There we go, so I'm managing to pull the colour off a little bit, so that's fine. And then I'll just dust it back on. Okay, so now that we've got those colours on, I'm going to grab a piece of sandpaper, and I just want to sort of pull some of this paint off and create a bit of a distressed look to it. And of course, because we've got the MDF, because the MDF base is there, we're going to have the wood look to it. So it's almost like it's, you know, painted, and then over time got a bit worn. So I think actually the grade of sandpaper I've got is slightly heavy, but it's okay. It will give us the desired effect. So again, I'm just going to carry on doing this. I'm going to kind of go a bit heavier on the edges so that we have it framed and that it'll stand out from the background. So I'm really kind of making sure that those edges are covered. And I'm just, as I said, just going to sort of lightly scratch some of this. This is Stamperia rice paper, and I'm just going to tear out the bit that has the lace and the music notes to start off with, and then I will build up from there. So I'm just using water. You can see it's slightly dirty water, got a bluish tinge to this. So I was sort of filming this in between filming the videos for my show. So yeah, we've got some sort of blue paint from the, oh, that's nice. That is nice. I like it. Okay, so sorry. There's a strange edit there. It was because I had to edit out a sneeze. Right, so let's start getting this down. Oh, they've got the subtle music notes there. That's kind of really what I was going for, so I'm pleased. Okay, so I've got some gel medium again, and I'm going to put that underneath. I'm just going to go over that bit. I can try, and I'm sure if I wet the rice paper, I'll be able to get it to come out from the nooks and crannies there. Okay. So again, I'm just going to grab my water and just go around the edge there, and then I should just be able to tear that off quite easily, like so. Okay, and again I will do the same. I'm just going to wet that little bit in here, and hopefully we should just be able to sort of break the paper and push it through. Oops. Probably need a better tool than that paintbrush, right enough. I'm just gonna, there we go. Got that there, and then I can neaten that all up with a bit of gel medium just to catch the edges and have them going down like so. Okay. I'm liking this so far, so that's good. I feel like I've been faffing quite a lot with this project and wondering if it is actually going to go anywhere, so it's nice to actually it's nice for it to feel like it's taking a direction. So let's stick some more of this beautiful paper down, and it goes so well, and the colours go so well. So I'm really chuffed with that. So just again tear it around the edges, and then we'll just pop that, seal the edges with the gel medium, and let that dry. Okay, put a bit around there. So I'm just going to gradually build this up. And I think it's looking quite pretty, which is all good. That's that's what we want. So if I just pull in my board that I've accidentally thrown stuff on, so that's going to affect the texture, it will have something that's looking a bit like that. So I think all those colours go really well. Right, so I am just going to again grab, I might just put a bit more, actually I've got some music detail on that. I'm just going to add a bit more to the top here. Have it going up there. I don't even know what this is called. I am so not musical in the slightest at all. My nan once tried to teach me piano because she used to do piano forte. She taught my cousin. My cousin was very musical. And she tried to teach me, and I think she gave up after a couple of lessons. Decided I was unteachable. So yeah, music obviously wasn't the way forward for me. I'm having to express my creativity in other ways. Music is not it. Okay. So I will get this stuck down and then I will come back to you. Okay, so I've got all my bits and bobs sort of sorted. I'm just going to stick these together and then I'm going to go off for some lunch because it's already 1:30 and I haven't had anything to eat yet. Well, I've had food, that's I've just not had my lunch. So I'm using gel medium just to stick this together because it's the strongest adhesion, and obviously this is going to have to go down in the post down to Hochanda, so I want to make sure that it survives the journey. So I'm just going to pop that down like so, marry that up so that it looks right. Okay, now I am also just going to grab a piece of double-sided tape, and I'm going to put a tiny little bit just at the top of the back of the bit where the strings go. Do you like my musical knowledge? It's amazing, isn't it? The bit where the strings go. Right. And then there was sorry, I'm doing this off camera. There was grooves, which I've sort of lost in putting all the mediums over, but instead I am going to do these with thread. So I just need to work out, I need it to be about that long. So I grab my scissors and I will do, let me see what we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 strands the same length. So I'm just sticking it on the back there, and I will create, as I said, 4 strings about the same length, and then what I'll do is I'll stick this piece down. So I'm just going to finish this bit off camera because you've seen what I'm doing and it's fairly fiddly, so I don't know how long I don't know how long I'll be doing it. That close down now, and I've just held the threads to the front, and then again I'm going to grab some gel medium and just put that along the back of that, and then I am just going to stick it down into place like so. Okay. Then I'm going to grab these threads one at a time. So this part goes here. So I want to grab the first thread and pull that taut along the first line, and then I want to secure that down behind here. So again, I'm just going to grab a piece of double-sided tape and put it in the right position. I'm trying to angle this so that you can, there we go, so that you can still see it. So I'm going to go along there, and then, as I said, it should fit behind there. So I need to be adhering it about there, I think, so that it's hidden. Yep, okay. So we will stick one piece down. Just going to lift that so it's easier for me to stick the threads to. Okay, and then I'll get the second one, and again bring it down to where it should be and stick it to that tape. Oops. proving a bit tricky because my finger is choosing to stick to it as well. Okay, so I'm trying to also roughly go so that it will meet up where it's supposed to at the end here. So I'll just get those 4 stuck down. Discovering the back of my nail works slightly better. Now this thread has escaped a little bit. Okay, so we'll take that down and again stick it on to the tape like so. Okay, I think I'm actually missing 1 piece of string. I think there should have been 5 there, so let's just cut ourselves another bit. Because I've used the gel medium, it won't have adhered properly, so I probably still will have the wiggle room to get behind. In fact, that's just moved slightly. So I don't, because I've got those other strings nice and taut, I don't particularly want to lift it, so I'm just going to try sliding it under for just now, and hopefully the gel medium that's already under there should grab hold of it and it'll stick tight. So I'm just going to slide it under and then bring that down. See, that's where a knowledge of music would have helped, because I would have known I needed an extra string. Okay, right, and now I have done that, I am at the bottom just going to chop these threads a bit shorter so that we don't have loose ends. That's picking up just now, but that's because that's not the permanent adhesion. And then obviously I'm going to stick some gel medium onto the back of this bit here, like so. Got a nice big globule of it. Not so much that it's going to squeeze through, but enough so that it's going to secure it fine. So I'll do that, and then I am going to just match that up to the bottom there and stick it down. And now we have our glittery threads. So I've just noticed I've got a little bit of the gel medium poking out the side there, so I'm just going to grab the side of my palette knife. Actually, this rice paper is lifting up, so I'm just going to stick that down with the spare bit of gel medium that we've got, rather than it go to waste. Right, I'm just going to straighten this up again because I've moved it with fiddling. So that's the thing with gel medium, it does stick really well, but it does take a while to dry, which is quite often when we're making things like on the telly box or for YouTube or something, that we don't use it, because you know you need to have that drying time, and sometimes time commitments don't quite allow for that. So that's me got all of that straight there, and then the last thing I'm going to add is this bit here, and again I don't know what it's called, but it's the bit that you rest your chin on whilst playing. So I'm just going to pop that down there like so, and then leave this to dry and go off and get my lunch, and I'll be back to finish off. Okay, so whilst my violin is drying, or not drying, sort of setting, so it's got the stuff, I'm just going to add a bit more colour to this. So I'm using the same colour as I've used before. This is acrylic paint, so it's not water based, it's not particularly designed for doing this technique, but I'm just going to see if I can get it to work anyway. I'm just going to add lots of water and try and see if I can get it to catch in amongst those textured elements. So I've got a bit of something happening. So yeah, I'm just going to spread that out a bit. Doesn't look overly great like that, but just so that we can get it, there we go, get it moving. And as I said, hopefully we've got a bit of interest going on there. Okay, and I'll try and do the same with the paint down here. And then I'll probably sort of assemble the piece together before sort of keeping fiddling, because we want it all to work cohesively as a whole. But yeah, that's just given it a bit more added interest that it was needing. I did want a soft vintage look, but it was just looking a little bit too bland. Now I don't like the way the water of those two elements have run together, so I'm just going to grab a tissue. I'll just lift that bit there. So I've got a few colours going there, and as I said, it's sort of catching in between, which is kind of what I was sort of wanting to achieve with the crackle, but it didn't quite turn out as planned. So that's the thing, if something doesn't quite turn out as you'd thought, just keep playing till you're comfortable. So now I'm not overly thrilled with that gold, so I'm just going to put a wash of paint over that particular bit. It's a bit too stark, a bit too bright, so I'm just gonna, I'll pull that back, just dab it, and then I'll maybe just wipe a bit of gesso on there as well. Okay, so I'll need to wait for all the elements that I've got going on to dry a little bit, and then when we have, we'll come back and sort of put it together and embellish it and all of that sort of stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that to dry now because I've added that bit of gesso on that side. I'm just going to do a little bit this side as well so it marries together a little bit better. Okay, so I just want to adhere my violin to the background. I'm really pleased with how this is looking so far. So as always, it is going to stick better with gel medium, but I kind of want to get on and get this project done. So I'm going to put a generous amount of gel medium on, but what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue. So it's a little bit like sometimes we use like a 3D foam or a tape to stick stuff down, and that gives it an immediate adhesion, but we also add a bit of white glue to the background. So same principle, I'm doing this so that it will stick down straight away so that I can start working on the next stage of this, but it's also got that gel medium, and when that dries properly that'll give it a permanent hold. So I'm giving myself a temporary fix so that I can keep going, but I've also got that permanent fold so that this project will sort of take abuse and survive. Okay, so I'm just going to turn off my hot glue again, and we'll go on to do some shadowing. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the shadowing stage of my project. If you watch me regularly, you will be aware that this is a technique that I do a lot. I have pulled out my Derwent Intense and I've got the red oxide, so I'm going to start off with this colour and see if it will work. I've gone for it because it's a sort of a peachy brown, and so I'm thinking it will work with the colour tones of the project. Now the reason I use an Inktense pencil is I find this technique easier to do with a watercolour because it seems to give me more control. If I try and use a graphite pencil, which sometimes I do and a lot of people do, I personally find I struggle to maintain the control of how dark it goes and things like this, where I seem to find that I personally manage to work out, I personally manage to get a finish that I prefer, a more softer blend. The reason I stick with my Inktense pencils is because they have the properties of watercolour, so as you work with them and wet them like this, they will move like a watercolour, but once they are dry, they are an ink, they are permanent, so I can then start playing with some of my other mediums on top and it's not going to move. So when I'm doing mixed media, I do like that element about the Inktense product. The reason I do this is everything in life has shadows. So like even if I just put my hand, you know, you can see Alice Keegan does that a lot in her lessons, but you can see how much darker that is when something is in front of it. If that helps to give things definition, it helps to make things make sense, because in life our brain is used to seeing a shadow behind an object. It creates a very 3D element because the darker colours recede to the background, pushing the lighter ones forward. So it makes your project make sense to your brain, but it also just sort of adds that extra level of dimension. So this is why I do feel that it is worth doing. I may also, I'm going to take that's not quite stuck down yet, but I may also just do a tiny, not as deep as behind, but I may also just bring a tiny amount of shadowing onto some of the feature pieces here on the violin, again just to make that stand out. Now this is a bit of a lengthy process, so I'm just going to pop, now that I've explained it, I'm just going to pop the yaw and fast one. Okay, so now it's time to add all the embellishments. This is the fun part. It just feels like we've spent a lot of time faffing, and now we can sort of put it together reasonably quickly. So I'm just going to add this string of pearls, and then we can get going with the other bits and pieces that I've got looked out. So again, probably better with a gel medium. I'll just pop that down just now. It'll get stuck down with gel medium anyway as we do the other bits and bobs. Okay, so I've got some lovely flowers. I've been reading my stash. So let's see how we get on. I'm quite happy because some of these have been in my stash for a while, because I buy them because they look so pretty and then I always find they're too big for projects. But that's what's fun about a mixed media project. I think because probably when I bought them I was far more into doing cards and things, so they just sort of never got used. But now that I do a lot more mixed media projects, I feel like I've got a bit more leeway with these different things. So just going to arrange these. So I have actually sort of had a play and taken a photo, and I'm sort of working roughly towards that, because I always find that I do something and then like it, like I've just noticed that the pearls were in a slightly different arrangement and then think, oh, it didn't look quite how I had it before. So that's one thing that I find that I like to do, to make sure that I get it how I had it and how I liked it. So I'm just running out of this gel medium too. I think I'm actually going to have to order some gel mediums. Both of my staple gel mediums are sort of gone now, so I will have to restock up. So yeah, I'm just adding these bits of flowers here, getting them to stick down, and then what I'll do is I'll add a bit of sort of a few extra embellishments. I'm just going to pause the camera because that's somebody phoning my daughter. Okay, so I'm not following my picture anymore now because I've just handed my phone over to my daughter. She's 8, so she doesn't have a phone of her own, but obviously her friends sort of keep in touch, and it's important whilst they're in this very strange situation that they're able to sort of still have some sort of interaction with their friends. So it means that I quite often lose my phone throughout the day, but that's okay. So I'm going to just build up some flowers this side as well. Okay. So yeah, let's see how we go. But now that it's kind of getting to the end, it's sort of what I was hoping for. I was wanting like a really soft, pretty, vintage, shabby chic sort of look, and I think we're getting there. I think we're getting what I was aiming for, so that's all good. I like that. Just gonna create a bit of a loop with this. Oops. Don't use pearls very often in projects, to be honest. I always find I struggle to get on with pearls as well. They're the sort of things that I tend to have because they're pretty, so you sort of accumulate them, but I never quite know what to do with them. Yep, I am definitely in need of some more gel and mediums. So this is Medina Weekly one. I have to say I've not tried a huge amount of gel mediums. I've used this one, the Dina Wakley, and I've used the Indigo Blue Slap It On. I have to say, now that I'm sort of at the bottom of what I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to need to order more, I will be going for the Slap It On. I do really like the Indigo Blue Slap It On. I find it just quite easy to work with. I kind of have had issues getting this one to stick on certain things, so yeah, I mean, that could be me, it could be how I'm using it, I'm not sure. Have a little look, see what else I've got. I feel like I'm needing another big flower, so I'm just trying to, honestly, it's like scraping the barrel here. Okay, I'll have to look through my stash, see what we've got for gluing things down over the next few days till I order something. Right, so I'll just hold these down. Yeah, I am happy with how it's turned out, so that's good. That's good. It's always good when you're happy with your project. If you're not happy with your project, you just keep going till you are happy with your project. That's what I tend to find. Never sort of give up on it, I just sort of keep working till I am happy. Okay, so I'm going to stick these down, and then the other thing that I'm just going to do, because I'm really severely running out of glue here, which is not overly helpful. Okay, I've also got these little sort of bitty bits, so I'm just going to pull, because these are almost like, you know, the little fillers that you get when you get a bouquet of flowers or something. But it's amazing the difference they make just having bits and pieces like that sort of in amongst everything. So I'm just going to add some of those, and then I will be back with you. Okay, so I am on to finishing touches now, so I'm just going to get some wording. This is also an MDF piece from the lovely Samantha. So I am just going to push this into some Versamark ink. I'm making sure that I'm getting a really good coverage of it because I want to do a little bit of embossing with this. So tap that in a few times. Okay, and then I have my Wow embossing powder. I have to say, this is my favourite brand of embossing powder. I have used quite a few in my lifetime as a crafter, and it's definitely now my brand of choice when it comes to embossing powders, I have to say. I'm just going to move that over and tidy this away. So yeah, now if I was to buy myself embossing powders, I would definitely be going for the Wow ones. Okay, and I am just going to hold this with my tweezers so I can lift it up, and we'll get some heat on this, and hopefully you'll be able to see. I think there's nothing more exciting than embossing powder. It's one of those things that no matter how many times you've seen it and everything, it just never seems to lose its... I don't know if you can see that, I'm trying to get it in the light. Yeah, there we go. It's a good angle for seeing it. I'm just watching it change. So, there we go. It's just looking lovely. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Such a simple technique, but so exciting. I'll tell you a funny story about embossing powder once I have finished that. Okay. So I've just sort of got that arranged into where I would like it to go, and I'm going to get the last little scrapings of this gel medium. Yeah, so when I first discovered embossing powder, it was well before I was into being a crafter. It was actually my sister-in-law that sort of introduced me to the concept of it, and we made our wedding invitations. As I said, it was pre-crafting. If I could go back and do it now, my invitations would be very different. But they did have an element of heat embossing, and we didn't have a heat gun or anything like that, but my husband at the time well, he's still my husband now, but my fiance at the time. They had a open fire in their flat, so it was lovely. And we actually just sat there with food tongs holding bits of card into the open fire to get it to heat and emboss. So yeah, not a technique I would overly recommend, but that was my first introduction. So I've added that touch of gold. Now because of that, I'm just going to give the whole project a gold edging with some gilding wax. I'm just going to go along the edges of the MDF there, and then just bring a tiny amount overlapping it a bit, just to create a bit of a gilded frame. And then I think finally, to finish off with, I'm just going to add some gold splashes, so I'll come back to it when we're at the splashy stage. Okay, so finally I'm just going to add some splashes. I've got out my Kuretake Ganzi Tambi, and I'm just going to add a few gold splashes around the edge. I don't mind if a few go on the violin, but in general I'm sort of trying to avoid that a little bit. So I'm just giving that a few little splatters, and then hopefully we can just have a wee look at the finished project just now. Okay, so that is my finished project there. So I hope you have enjoyed making this with me. You can find all of these goodies over at Samantha's shop. I'll put the link in the description box below. If you've joined me on my channel, please do pop across to Sam's and you can find more of her goodies there. If you found me on Sam's channel, please feel free to check over and see what I am all about. Wherever you found me, please do consider liking and subscribing, and we'll be back again very soon. Okay, take care then, and goodbye.